chairs.
My name is Alexandra Weil. I would like to welcome everyone this afternoon to the Pownal Candidate Forum, sponsored by the Friends of Pownal. Also present here from the Friends of Pownal are Karen Galise, Jason Olansky, and Suzanne Carmen. I would also like to thank the candidates for coming to this event. Local government is an important cog in the political landscape of this country, and it is essential that every citizen participates in the process. The purpose of the Friends of Pownal is to support and build positive community spirit through supporting effective communication and dialogue while encouraging greater citizen involvement in town activities and other nonpartisan, quiet good works. We will ask the candidates to introduce themselves and answer a series of questions they have received in advance. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to answer each question, and I will be the timekeeper. I'll put my hand up. This event is being recorded by CAT TV. Thank you very much to Josh Boucher for being here. I am also supposed to tell you where the fire exits are. There, and over here, and back there, and the bathrooms. Let's get started. I would like to introduce Tom Sulper, who has graciously volunteered to be moderator.
Yay, Tom.
No pressure. Good afternoon. There's 5 questions and they cover a lot of ground, but we wanted to give the candidates just a chance if you want to introduce yourself, if nothing else, your name, but anything else you would like to say. And why don't we start my left to right, and then we'll maybe start the questions right to left.
Julie Weber. Nancy Messina.
Alonzo Bizon.
Jamie Alexander.
Michael Gardner.
Great. So the first question is, what goals do you have in mind for the select board? And Michael, we'll start with you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for attending, and let's hope things go smooth. As sitting on the select board now, I'd like to continue to work with all of the boards. I think we've come DRB, Planning Commission, Parks and Rec.
Mike, can I ask everybody to speak a little louder because we can't hear back here?
Sure, sorry.
Okay, it's not your fault.
So serving on the select board now, what I'd like to see happen is, one of my goals is to continue to work with all of the boards, Development Review Board, Planning Commission, Parks and Rec, Conservation Commission. I think right now they're a pretty cohesive unit. All the boards and commissions working with the select board working with them. It's just better for the town and all the way through. Everyone working for the same goal, right? And that's what we're trying to do. As well as our department heads, our road crew, our transfer station, wastewater. We all work very well together. When there's a problem within one of our departments, they can reach out. They know they're going to get. They know they're going to be able to contact one of the board members. And then if it's an emergency type of situation, they know we're going to go ahead and get it fixed or do whatever we need to do. And I think that's been I don't think that happened all the time in the past, but it's definitely happening now. I'd like to keep rebuilding our relationships with the state government, fire marshal's office, different things. These, to me, these are things that you definitely need, and I think some of those relationships were severed a little bit in the past for various reasons. But I think rebuilding those relationships and keeping that is tremendously important, especially moving forward. You know, we need their support no matter what kind of endeavor. If a business wants to come into town or whatever, we need the support of the state and the different organizations. And I just think the board needs to continue working as a board for the betterment of the town. I mean, it's not about, it should never come into a personal or some sort of an agenda. It just needs to be just for the betterment of the entire town.
So the goals I have in mind for the select board is I would like us to continue along the path that I feel like we've been on for the past year. And that doesn't mean that every issue or concern that's been brought up has been solved to everyone's preference or pleasure. It doesn't mean that there aren't ongoing concerns, but what I'm talking about more specifically is the fact that this select board has been able to come together over the past year and work collaboratively. Doesn't mean that we always agree. Right? It means we definitely have different opinions about some things, but I think it's really important to have a select board where the individuals on that board aren't working in silos, right? I've been thinking a lot about the difference between being right and being correct. It seems like a lot of folks everywhere, nationally, at the state level, local level, like we're all so consumed with being right these days, and that seems to be, by right I mean interested in like someone taking their own perspective and opinion and saying, well, that is the right one. What I want with our select board, and what I hope that we can continue to bring to this town and its residents, are people who are committed to being correct. And by that I mean finding out the right answers, right? I think there's a lot of value in being able to say, I don't know the answer to that. Like the select board gets presented with a lot of questions. There's a lot of things in our budget, things that we don't even necessarily understand initially, like learning how the different components work. Road issues, bridge issues, right? I'm not a civil engineer, but when there's a hole in the bridge, I want to go look at it, like go take photos, and then be present with our different departments when they are working through different challenges that face us as a community. And so that's what I really want to continue to see is I want a select board that's building on what we have now, that's working for the people of Pownal and not for individual interest. I want additional accessibility. And when I was elected last year, one of the things that I did is I tried to get my phone number out there. Maybe not the smartest thing in the world to do, but like get late night phone calls. There seems to always be like a meeting after the select board meeting, like where people are texting or calling, yeah, but what about this? And that's fine. I would rather be accessible than not, and I want us to continue to have a board across the board that's accessible. Transparency. When I ran last year, I kept hearing from people, we have a lack of transparency. We need more transparency. And I wasn't sure actually what to expect when I joined the select board. I'm like, what is actually going on here? I don't know. But then once I got involved in going to the meetings and having conversations and getting to know the other board members, there honestly was a lot of transparency. And I think there's a lot of dialogue that goes on right in the meetings. But I wanted to see a continuation of that. Yep, am I out?
Yeah, that's about it.
All right, sorry. and I barely even have notes. God help me.
I'm winging this because I'm new at this whole
Can I ask if
situation.
people say their names before they
Hi.
speak again?
Alonzo Bizan,
Thank you.
local small business owner. I have a vested interest in the town. I'd like to see more transparency coming out. I'd like to have things brought up that are going to be ridiculously expensive, brought out before the townsfolk for opinion and vote, or some way to get things more on the level of the people. Totally new to all this. My brother did it for a while. All I know is that I'd like to see Pownal to move along and for people in Pownal to be able to discuss things, like she said, openly and without any animosity towards one group or another, and people to get along and come to some kind of understanding that everybody can be happy with. Short and sweet. Yep.
I'm going to sound a little similar. My name is Nancy Messina, and I also am new to this. I would like to have an opportunity to learn about the local government and to see how things work and to try to help things to change if they need to be changed. I feel like transparency is a big part of the whole scenario and being able to communicate before something happens rather than after. I want to be part of the conversation and the discussion as opposed to hearing about the decision. I think that that's very important, but most important for me is to have more taxpayer involvement in things. So perhaps a town-wide meeting for the the residents before a select board meeting takes place on large things, possibly. I don't know if that's something that happens already, because although I've been here all of my life, I haven't always participated. That's it.
Julie Weber.
Sure, hold on just a sec. All right, just so you won't compete.
That's okay. Julie Weber. And I have lived in town for a very long time. And I would like to see from the select board to curb spending. And that if we have big projects, that it should come before the voters on certain things. I know that some things can't if it's an emergency, however, but I would like that.
A little louder, Julie,
Oh.
please.
I'm sorry, it's hard
know,
for me
I know
to
it's
speak
hard.
louder. And that I would like all of the select board to work together and communicate and have the lines open.
All right, unless you folks object, we'll start with Julie and we'll work this way for the next question. The next question is, have you ever served on a board or committee before? And if so, are there any lessons you learned from those experiences? If you haven't, you haven't. It's, you know, are there any lessons from serving on a board?
Okay, do I need to say my name again?
I don't think so, unless you want to.
I have done planning commission in the DRB for 17 years. I was a member on the board as their secretary. And the thing that I pulled out of it is that teamwork, that you have to work with various boards and like BCRC and all them with doing the bylaws and following rules and procedures. So I'm good on that for now.
Do you mind if I read from my notes, because it'll be easier? Yes, I've served and currently serve on a board. I was appointed to the town of Bennington when I worked in Bennington to be a member of the Board of Commissioners for the Bennington Housing Authority. I sat for 2 terms, a 2-year and a 5-year. I'm also a 27-year Pownal American Legion Auxiliary member. I served as the Sergeant at Arms for 1 year and currently hold the offices of Vice President and Treasurer. The most important takeaway from being part of the decision-making body of the commissioners and/or as an officer is that we are individuals, but as a board, we are a collective. So we can't make individual decisions. We have to work collectively together to talk about the things that truly are going to help make a change. And we have to be able to talk to each other and get along with each other. We don't necessarily have to like each other, but at least have enough respect for each other to be able to make the decisions that we need to make that are appropriate for what we have to deal with.
Well, Alonzo Bizon again. I have very little experience in any of this. I have a JP here. I'm on the abatement thing whenever that happens. Biggest thing is you got to be able to communicate, listen to what people have to say, and come up with a reasonable decision and work together on any decisions that are made.
Jeannie Alexander. I do have experience on boards and commissions, and my family says I have too much experience. Sometimes they want me to be at home. But I think more germanely to my experience here, along with being on the select board, I'm currently on the Bennington County Conservation District. And that ties in very much so with my work here in Pownal and my commitment to this town. I'm also on the Vermont Association of Conservation Districts, that board. I'm the vice president for that board, and I'm the convener for the Greater Bennington Interfaith Council right now. And all of that, it just reinforces so much of what I'm hearing right now, and that is collaboration. It's also a lot about having hard conversations and uncomfortable conversations sometimes, because while we have tough issues to address, we have issues that people have a lot of emotional feelings about sometimes to address, it's uncomfortable, like, to be vulnerable and honest with each other. And so that's one of the things that I've learned, is you cannot avoid the harder conversations. And that goes back to being willing to collaborate, to do the research that we need to do. And then beyond the research and the data, so people want to know that they're actually being heard. Like, really develop those deep listening skills so that you're not just stoning out, right? Someone's talking to you about something that maybe doesn't feel important to you at the moment. What's really important to that person? And that I've learned over a lifetime of my work in my various professions. And I just think that's so important for anyone on the select board. Then we all need to be able to do that, is to hear. And then even if we don't make a decision that everyone agrees with, that there is a justification and we can show a process of how we got there. And that kind of process is what I've learned from serving on boards.
Michael Gardner. I have served on boards. I served on the school board here in Pownal for 7 or 8 years. I'm currently on the select board for the last 6. I think one of the most important things that you can do on the select board is listen to all parties when there's something in front of the board. And before you make a decision, before you form an opinion, I think another really important thing is you have to be able to change your position or change your opinion if someone sells you on what they're trying to persuade you to do. And I think you have to do that willingly and not hold a grudge. I think that's tremendously important, is being able to do that, change your opinion, because we all have one when we come into one way or the other, right? And you have to be able to change that on facts that are presented, not just on somebody's emotions. It has to be factually based. I think another one of the most important things I learned when I was on the school board, actually, with Cindy and some other people, was you have to support the decision that the board comes up with. If you don't agree with it, well, maybe you'll win the next time. But you have to support the decision of the board. And I think that is a huge portion or part of successful town government, is if the residents and the taxpayers see that the entire board supports the decision, then I think it gives them the confidence that the decision was based on facts, not on opinions. It was based on a great conversation, great communication. I also think that one of the things that I've learned when you're on a board is, especially the select board, is this is a 24/7 job, not just every other Thursday. It doesn't go away. It does not go away. So you have to be prepared for the 24/7 thing. People come up to you, people want to discuss things, your phone rings, it's just inevitable, it's gonna happen.
All right. Question number 3 kind of might cover some of the same ground. So it's, do you have specific ideas about how the select board can improve Pownal and the life of its residents? So our first one was about the goals. This is a chance, if you want to get a little more in detail on what specifically can we do to help the residents of Pownal. You want to start with on the left?
Sure, Julie Weber, and mine's short and sweet. Mine is enforce policies and procedures. That's it.
Okay, well, because I'm not involved, I don't really know, but I'm going to reiterate transparency, communication, involving the taxpayers as much as possible. Inclusion is very important, especially to elderly folks who may not be computer savvy. How can we help them to be a part of the things that are happening besides receiving a ballot in the mail to say, please vote on these? If they're not made aware, how can they make a well-rounded decision? So I think that those things are important. Change is a good thing if if you do get new faces on the board, I think it's not necessarily a bad thing, because if there's no change, there may be no progress. So hopefully we can, whatever the outcome is, whoever is on the board can take some of the things that we're all talking about today and apply them if necessary.
Alonzo Bizza, I don't really have any directive other than more, like you said, transparency, and for people to be able to have a voice in what goes on in town, and if you know of something that needs to be addressed, try to bring it up and get some things done that are not being addressed. Specifically, I'm kind of still in the learning zone here.
Jeannie Alexander. I do have some like broad but more specific ideas, and that's what you asked for. One of those, the top of my list, is the Pownal Rescue Squad. That's also one of the questions on this, so I'm just going to kind of wait and hold it there, put a pin in it, but that is an issue that we are going to have to tackle and find a good solution for in this community. The other issue is PFOA contamination and a lack of safe and reliable water sources, particularly for North Pownal. Like, this is one of those issues that I found out about it because in an offhand sort of conversation, it was being discussed, and I heard someone say, well, providing water to other people in this town isn't the job of government. And I personally do think that is absolutely a job for us to figure out. If we have neighbors who don't have reliable access to clean water, that's a really big problem. I think it's also a really big problem for rescue services, potentially. And I know that this is something that's been going on for a long time, because when I'm poking around, I'm being told this has been going on forever. I'm like, I know. I've done the research. I'm looking at the Vermont and Digger articles from 2016, 10 years ago. And I can't imagine how frustrated that is. I mean, I can, because I've had some conversation with folks who don't have reliable access to fresh water. And so I think that's sort of a basic issue that we need to deal with. And by deal with, I don't mean kick it down the road. I mean, we need to find a concrete solution for making sure that we all have accessibility to water, for God's sake. Like, wait, are these beeps and stuff? Okay. I know I go over. We don't have to get that severe. Another issue that's like incredibly important to me is continued support for local farms. As recently as 5 years ago, when the new district manager for the Bennington County Conservation District took over, he was told there are no farms in Bennington County, right? Which we know is insane. There are a lot of farms in Bennington County, and we have a lot of farms here in Pownal. We used to have more. We can have more again, but I'm very committed to making sure that our local food system is secure, and not just secure, but that we can continue to lift it up, to access grants, to access funding to it. I don't want to sound really dramatic, but I don't think anybody's coming to save us at the moment. I think we'd better figure out some of the basic things like water and our food systems. And we've got some fantastic farms in Pownal, and I want to continue to give them support, and I want to find ways that as a select board we can come together and help new farms and older farms who need additional funding to access that.
Mike Gardner. One of the things that I think that needs to happen in Pownal is we need to conquer the division in town, the residential division. I think we've made some strides in it in the last few years. But I think we still need to keep working towards that. That's what's best for Pownal and its residents, when everyone can talk and come up with a solution to a problem and not create an animosity toward each other. That's how you come up with the best ideas and what's best for the town, in my opinion. I think we need to hold some state government accountable for some of our tax increases. We had a forum at the town meeting on the 29th. We brought in some representatives. I think we set some groundwork. I think that needs to continue no matter who's on the board. I think this board needs to keep pushing that forward. We just can't afford the taxes that keep coming up. We need to continue to listen to our residents and their concerns and act on them when it's possible. We also, Jeannie touched on this earlier, we can't make everyone happy. It's literally impossible. We have to make what we feel as a board is the best decision, and if we can lay our head on our pillow at night knowing we did the research, that's how I kind of live by it. Knowing that decision was made with the best information. As a board member, you can't have a platform or an agenda. You have to run for every part of the town. You have to run for every single residence, no matter where you come from. You have to represent each person or each group of people equally. And I think we do a good job of that, and that's a big thing for me. I think one of the things that this next board's gonna be challenged with is the racetrack property. We all know that there's a really good chance that it's going to be sold, if it hasn't been already. There's been some stir about that, but I don't know that. But the racetrack property, and I think the board is gonna have to sit down, and in order to make this a successful endeavor for the town, I think the board has to be able to listen to some out of the box ideas. I don't think IBM or anybody's gonna come in here and save the town. I think it's gonna be some out of the box ideas, and I think the board has to be open to listening to some of those various ideas, whatever they are.
Now, our last two questions deal with issues that the board has been working on recently and will probably continue to have to work on. So we thought, question number 4 is, Pownal has abandoned properties along Route 7 and elsewhere, which are eyesores. How can the town strike a better balance between respecting individual property rights and protecting the rights of all Pownal residents to live in a clean, attractive place that retains its property values? Oh, yeah,
I'll start. Sure. Michael Gardner. So this is a tricky question for sure, and it's that you can tread on some really thin ice both ways. There's no doubt about it. But what I believe is part of the problem for some of the things that we see on Route 7 are permitting that was put in place many years ago, and it didn't follow what I consider to be the right process. The process was there. But I think some of these permits that were put in place for some of these businesses and places, especially on Route 7 corridor, if they had gone to the DRB, or if the DRB had placed some restrictions and maybe some inspections, excuse me, some inspections on those properties, and the permit was only valid if these places kept up with their restrictions and the guidelines that were placed on them. That didn't happen. That's something that we have turned around. That's what we have a DRB for. They're a quasi-judicial board. They can make those decisions, and that's how it is. The zoning administrator can't, the select board can't. It follows there, and I don't think those processes were followed years ago, and I'm talking a number of years ago, not recently, but a significant number of years ago. I think it has been improved over the last 10, 12 years or more. I think that's one of the big things. And I think, the select board can get into taking people to court, hiring the lawyer, but then there could be a never-ending deal there, and it can become very expensive. So I think there's some avenues you can approach people. I think with some board approval, I think we could approach some people and say, hey, look at let's see what we can do here. So.
Yeah, Jeannie Alexander again. So, yeah, I think this is one of those issues that people have very strong feelings about, right? On the one hand, it's my damn property. I'm going to do what I want with it. And on the other hand, it's like, come on, this is impacting the entire town. Like, we could do better than this. And we did deal with this last spring. There was a property, again, on Route 7, and it was like one of our mini town meetings, like, not many, sorry, my southern accent sometimes. Where we do have like those topical town meetings, you're talking about like bringing things in front of people, like what are we gonna do about this issue? And I know that at the time when that meeting happened, there was some real trepidation without the resident of the property, that Sean was gonna come in and just be really angry, and people were nervous. And my experience is like, if you're going, we'll make a lot more progress if we find ways to work with people and look for options. Because if you back anyone into a corner, they're going to go into defensive pose, right? And come out in a way that's going to defend themselves and whatever they're doing. If we can find a third way, which is one of the things that we were able to do in that instance, which was, hang on, what if we work together? Would you be willing, and I asked him, would you be willing if some volunteers were able to come and help you? Because I think if it were my property, I'd feel overwhelmed. And I think that happens easier than we think it does. I think that we may have some I know we do, we have some elderly residents in town where their properties are big and they've gotten kind of in over their head at this point. And if we can find a way to work with people, as opposed to bringing government into it necessarily, right? And I hear what you're saying too, right? About there's the potential for fines, there's regulation, and we can always go through permitting processes, and that's always available. But if before we get to that stage, if we can form a third way with folks who are willing and continue down this path of building our community as like deep community and knowing our neighbors. So I think that is one way to deal with this going forward. It won't solve everything, but it's certainly been at least somewhat successful for us in the past.
Alonzo Bizan. I think I have one of those messy properties that they complain about a little bit. It's just as you cross the state line, but I have a working business and them vehicles all shuffle around there all the time. I don't know about the whole permitting thing that he's talking about, because there were no rules that went along with that. As long as things are moving and I have a running business, I don't think I'm violating any real laws here. And as the other part of that question was abandoned properties, right?
Yeah, abandoned properties.
Okay, on the abandoned properties things, I bought up a couple of those and done a nice job cleaning them up. On the other hand of what I got going on. But anyhow, I'm all for trying to keep things nice on Route 7. We've all complained about the gray situation up there, everybody in town, and nothing seems to happen about it. I'm sure that there are some bylaws that are in effect in this town that aren't being pursued to take care of some of these things. You have to enforce the laws you have. I think Julie mentioned that earlier. But I'm all for cleaning up Pownal.
I think your business is fine. I think your business is
Nancy
fine.
Messina again. I'm just going to follow behind them and say this. I've been in housing for about 30 years, and in that being said, the rule in fair housing is what you do for one, you have to do for all. So I am all for, the suggestion that you're making as far as working with people, but they still have to fall within the parameters of the rules. And I think, and I don't know this, I'm new to this, and I don't know what is being enforced and what isn't, but I think that we really have to set a precedent and allow people to understand that there are consequences to not following the rules that there are set.
Okay, Julie Weber again. So I hear what they say, and I understand some of what they're saying. However, once again, I'm going back to enforcement. Yes, there are permits in place. However, they have been in front of the DRB, which they didn't place conditions on certain parcels. However, on the other hand, that we have a lot of low-income families, and they have their house is theirs. They worked their whole entire life to have their house. It might not be beautiful and cut green grass to everybody else's standards, but we have to remember that we do have a lot of elderly, and they work very hard to have what they have. And as for the abandoned properties, I don't think we have say, or should be allowed to tell, I mean, we can suggest to the owner, find the owner and say, hey, could you clean up? However, I mean, there are state laws, unless it's a health, I mean, if it's a health order that, you know, then you gotta follow the state guidelines and stuff like that. But there's just a lot of elderly people.
So the last question, the Pownal Rescue Squad is in serious financial difficulty because of fewer paid calls, various reasons, rising health costs, government cuts to Medicaid, Medicare, whatever. What should the select board do, if anything, about this situation?
Yep. One, Julie again. I'm not, you know, for sure what was put in place with the current board talking about what they're doing and how they're helping for the rescue squad. But I do think that we do need to help them, as I did rescue squad for 10 years, and that you have to work together and you gotta have mutual aid with not just the fire, you gotta have the rescue also. They all, you know, we all work together, but I'd like to, you know, keep the lines of communication open with them and see what the pros and cons are before I ask for more.
Nancy Messina. So, funny thing, I took my petition into Winchester Store for my signatures, and that was when I learned that we had a paid rescue squad. I've lived here all of my life, I didn't know. So imagine my surprise when Mr. Winchester said, how do you feel about the $300,000 increase to the rescue squad? Well, I didn't know, and I don't know, and I'm not gonna sit in front of you and say that I do know. I don't know what I don't know, and I would love to learn. EMS is a very important thing for this town. We definitely need it. We have a lot of elderly people, but we have people that at any time in our lives could need it. So I totally support it. But one thing that I wonder is if there's grants available for the fire department that was recently on social media, are there anything like that for the EMS? Could they apply for grants to try to help with funding for things that they need? What about fundraising? I don't know about anything like that, but I think that, you know, these are all avenues to explore. But I do know as a taxpayer that I own a couple of properties here in town, and my taxes go up every time you turn around, and we just can't afford that. So I would hope that we could do something to try to meet somewhere in the middle to be able to help them, because it's a very necessary service that they provide.
I don't really know how to go with this one, because I'm not that informed on what's going on. I didn't realize they were that far in the hole. I do work on their vehicles now and then, so they always pay me. But before we all had all volunteer rescue squad prior to this, what they have now. Now I see that, you know, it's a couple of full-timers all the time. I'm sure that's a huge expense. I'm not sure that the calls outweigh the amount of money they can do. But yeah, we should have something. She's absolutely right. We need something around to, you know, get there to help us. But I don't have enough information to make an informed decision on that.
Jeannie Alexander. Yeah, the rescue squad situation is something that we should all be concerned about. And, you know, and I agree. I mean, we look at our town and we have fire services that are still all volunteer. And I think that our fire services do an excellent job. And I definitely appreciate them being able to meet with them here and at the other fires, one of the other firehouses, and have had good conversations. And questions have come up about the rescue squad, like the decisions behind running it as a business instead of sort of all volunteer again. And I don't know the answers to how that came about, but I do know, looking at the finances, that it's troubling. And I do know also that the rescue squad has come to the select board asking for help, right? Like, they know their issues. And that's exactly right. About grants, are there possibilities? And the answer is yes, right? But there's a lot of really stiff competition for grants right now as well. For the reasons that were stated in the question, this is like one of those interesting issues where our struggle and like what we're facing right now, we're having to work through with our rescue squad, starts at the federal level with cuts to Medicaid and Medicare, with payments not being received, like with a change in where federal monies are going, right? Like, we all probably know that the state was just denied FEMA payments for flooding in 2025. Like, things are shifting and moving. And so all politics is local, and some of our problems start somewhere else. But we're going to be the ones left to figure this out. So I'm meeting with Becky next week, who's the executive director for the rescue squad, to like work through some grants, to look at what's available, because that ask for the additional $300,000 sort of knocked us on our butt. Select board, that was not an expected ask, and we weren't able to fund that additional $300,000. It doesn't mean that we don't want people to have rescue services, and we are going to have that, but it means we have to figure out how this works for all of our town and how we can actually pay for this, and where there are grants that can be obtained.
Sure, I get to finish up. I can speak on the fire service and the rescue squad probably better than, at least in this town, most anybody in the room. I grew up in this building right here. My dad was part of the rescue squad when it started. Obviously part of the fire department. I get a lot of years here. The state, some of the things that we were flabbergasted, we were floored when they came this year and asked for an additional $150,000 to make their total $300,000. I was a huge advocate, and I pushed really hard to have our emergency services funded on the general budget rather than a ballot article. I've been the chief officer waiting every Tuesday night until whatever time, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, to see if you were gonna get your money from the town to operate for the next year. I've been that guy. And that bothers me. They're working for everyone's safety, right, and well-being. And that's just not a good feeling. So I pushed hard for that, and it wasn't that hard to push, but I did push hard for it. Some of the things that Becky made us aware of is the state and federal aid for Medicaid and Medicare. I'm not afraid to ask the hard questions, and I got the answers, and they were the right answers. I asked why they have to go to Petersburg or wherever, every other place out there. It's because they take federal funding.
Yeah.
Okay, that's because, which I was not really aware of, right? I've been out of it a while. So they have to take those calls.
Can they go into Williamstown too?
They can. So it's one of those things that we weren't aware of, you know? So that ends up costing the residents of the town of Pownal money that they don't necessarily get reimbursed from the state or federal government. So that's a problem.
Yeah.
So I think as a select board, we need to push for that. I think we need to say, hey, you know, this is wrong, right? Open line of communication with them. I think we've established that. We're gonna just do some quarterly audits with the rescue squad, so that we can, as a select board and the town, we can try to keep them on track, so we're not floored in November or December with a huge ask. We're gonna know where things are at, rather than all of a sudden just it's a guessing game, or you know, here it is. So I think we've gained in the last 3 months, maybe 4 months, I think we've gained a huge step forward in the rescue squad, and every single one of us sitting here will tell you the same thing. It's a necessity to have here. It's not a luxury. It's necessary. I mean, anybody at any given moment, right? You just never know. So I think we've made some strides in it. you know,
We have a little extra time, so unless you guys object, we could open up the questions from the audience. If
Yeah.
that's all right?
Sue Kierman, I just have a question, probably mainly for Jeannie and Mike and the rest of you if you want to chip in on it. But years ago, we used to be able to come to the select board meeting. I know I was on the select board before, and people could come in and talk to us and everything. We can't do that anymore. Now you have to go and you leave a comment for 3 minutes, and you guys don't reply to the whole comment. You read a comment and that's it. I feel that we're not welcome at the select board meetings. I feel that if we want to come in and talk to you about something, we should be able to. I don't know why that stopped, and I wish it would continue again, and I want to know how everybody feels about it.
Yeah, I think that's a really fair question. Yeah, as someone who has often been a gadfly to boards and city councils, and I think so I hear that. And I'll tell you, I do think that, and I don't know what your experience has been in the past, 5, 6, 7 years, but in my first year on this, there have been times when the select board, my understanding was a policy initially not to engage, right, to allow the 3 minutes comment, but then work toward like, no, let's change that. So then we have engaged. It seems to be a back and forth, if I'm just completely honest, and I agree that it would be helpful if we could directly engage, right, with being mindful to the fact that we have a meeting to get through, right, an entire agenda to get through. But honestly, I wish we had more community involvement, so I don't think we're going to get into an issue, unfortunately, where during
nobody dares go in.
public comments that we have to go back and forth. So I hear you when you say that, and I think that we definitely need to have more engagement. I feel, and I also think that you should be able to access your select board members even outside of meetings. I think that we should be available to you. But I also hear, I think there's a value in being able to address the entire board and get some answers to questions.
I have something. As a housing executive director in public housing, I am the secretary of the Board of Commissioners. And on the agenda, we have opportunities for the board gets to speak, then I get to speak, and then the residents also get to speak. So is it something that could be added maybe to your agenda to allow them to speak? It's not giving them the opportunity to present something that they're asking you to vote on at the time, but just perhaps asking to put it on the next agenda.
Like, as opposed, yeah, are you?
It used to be that way. It
Right.
used to be you could go on the agenda and then go in and talk about it. But then all of a sudden, a couple of select board members decided, no, you've got 3 minutes, you can state your case and leave. And I just thought it was very rude, and I still think it's very rude.
Now, I will tell you, I am not aware of residents not being able to get something on the agenda. If that is a roadblock that people are hitting,
be able to, yes.
then I would certainly like to know about it, because I think if there's any resident in this town that has an issue that they think the town needs to deal with, to be able to contact us and get on the agenda is an incredibly important thing. I mean, I think you should have a select board member who's willing to stand up and say, yes, you should be able to be on the agenda. Let's talk about this.
We should be able to feel
Yeah.
welcome to go in there, and we
Yeah.
don't. People don't feel welcome to go into the select board meetings anymore.
Well, it's your town hall.
Anybody else?
yeah, I'd like to speak on that, Sue, for sure, because I've been there for 6 years. I don't know of one time that anyone has ever been turned off the agenda in 6 years. And if they have, then I'm gonna go out on a limb and I'm gonna apologize, because they've never approached me and asked me to be on the agenda.
Not
No,
necessarily on the
I
agenda,
know.
but be at a meeting and be able to speak.
That's right. So, the 3 minute thing, I think was probably put in place when things were very argumentative, back and forth. And I think we've gotten away from that. I think our town has gotten away from the argumentative stage that we were in a few years ago. Right? I think now we're in more of a stage where we can do this, where we can communicate back and forth. I think I personally don't have a problem communicating back and forth and having some comment back and forth. I think if it got to a point where you were running into 10 or 12 minutes or whatever, then we could say, let's put this on the next agenda. This is something that should
Exactly.
be put on the next agenda. I think that's certainly a doable thing, and I think that's probably a great idea. I think it's probably a great idea. I don't like hearing you say that people don't feel welcome coming into the select board, because I have always tried to pride myself on listening to everything that people say.
Well, it's true, Mike, and the other thing is, sorry.
I just wanted to say, this is my first encounter with local government so directly, and I go very frequently to town hall meetings, and I think it's a really amazing opportunity to engage. And I feel that your board has been very welcoming. I have not had that feeling that it's been a little hard to communicate outside of the select board meeting, so unless I show up in person, I'm never quite sure how to reach out to you, but I would certainly push back on not being welcome. It's also, we have a beautiful town hall meeting room, and so I think just spatially, it feels nice to be in there.
Did they,
Yeah, go ahead.
did they not in the past, didn't they used to set aside the first 15, 20 minutes for anyone to come in and speak their piece, and then if they wanted to butt back and forth for a minute, they had like a certain amount of time?
yes,
Why did that go away?
I don't know.
But within that time,
That
there were
could-
3 minutes. You could speak within 3 minutes. Because, frankly, I've been on lots of boards. And if you don't have that built into your agenda, you could be there until the next morning.
Right,
you
right.
have
Well,
to-
yeah, you have to moderate the
I mean,
conversation.
yeah, you have to have
But, you
control
know.
of that at some
So
point.
to be
yeah.
clear, we do have public comment
Yeah.
at the beginning and the end of the board meetings.
Yeah.
So we do still have built in twice during the meeting. And I hear you, it's a 3-minute comment, but that opportunity does occur at the beginning and the end still.
Let's, if anybody feels strongly, let's move on to another question. Walton?
As you may or may not be aware, there's things in progress from the state of Massachusetts, New York, and Vermont to have passenger train service running through this town on the line that comes through. My question is very simple. Do you or do you not support putting a passenger station in Pownal to serve Bennington County in this general region?
I would
Anybody
support
want to
that.
handle that one?
I would support that.
Yeah,
There used to be one 100 years ago, but,
yeah, I agree. Look, I've got
and it
this
was right
sticker
near
on
my
phone.
house.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact.
Yeah, I want to know more, right? And I have gone
Yeah.
to some of the information sessions, but yes, I do support that. I would like to be able to go into, depending on, I know that there are multiple routes, there are possibilities for this. So it would be great to hop on a train to get to Boston or to get to the city, or somewhere else, or to get down to Albany to
Yeah,
take someone to the
Albany,
airport. So I'm not driving down there. And I think trains are cool. So, yeah, I
I'll
am.
take that as a yes.
Yes, Walt.
I would support it for sure.
Yeah.
I would want to see more information, as Jeannie said, right? I mean, we need to see what sort of numbers you're talking about. I think our emergency services should be able to weigh in on this, because there's a potential that they're going to have to service some people that are coming in or getting on and off the train, right? So I think they should have a little bit of a push here a little bit, or at least, say, hey, it's not a big deal, or, wait a minute, we got some concerns, or whatever. I think we need to figure out a transportation outside of the train, right? We all know we don't have a taxi here in Pownal. I'm pretty sure we can't get one. I think there's a couple of things that we need to look at, Walter, for sure, but I definitely would support it because there is, as Julie stated, we have an elderly population that can't necessarily get to Albany when they need to, or if they want to go to Boston, they're not comfortable driving to Boston or New York City, but they certainly could get on there and shop or do whatever they needed to do if they had an alternative way to get there. So I think it's a great idea, but I think it needs to be researched out a little bit for sure.
I got it on my phone. I'm converted.
Any other questions from the audience? Oh, sorry.
Alexandra, could you clarify, or can someone clarify, for broader context, are there incumbent members of the select board who are not here today? And what will the number of select board members be? And finally, even though you already put this out, who's running for which positions? Could you clarify that?
Sure,
And then
I'm
I have
sorry
a
about
follow-up
that.
question.
Yeah, so all candidates are here.
Okay.
Julie, Nancy, and Jenny are running for the two one-year select board positions. And Mike and Alonzo, sorry, are running for the 1 3-year position.
So there will be
Three
more
positions.
select board members next year? Yes?
No, there's two not here.
That's what I did. No.
Staggered. So
And who's incumbent? Who's still in office for next year?
Oh, no.
No,
Who's still in
beyond-
office?
Yeah,
So,
you guys.
okay, so Carl is still in
Thank
office.
you, Carl.
Brian is stepping off.
Okay.
Jamie
Jamie.
is still, in office.
Yeah.
So we'll have 2 one-year positions to fill and 1 3-year position.
Okay.
Yeah, does that make? Yeah, I know.
You got the math, Dave?
Thanks a lot.
Is there a follow-up?
And secondly, just a quick question. Julie, can you clarify the question out there about whether there's a conflict of interest for the town clerk
Yeah, thank you.
to be on select board? I've heard that question. I presume, what's the answer to it?
There is no problem with the town clerk being a select board member. And it's been posted several times, that there are, I can't tell you the site right now, but we have compatible offices. But as I have nothing to do with election or touching my computer at the moment for that, I can have Jamie answer that question for you tomorrow, or Tuesday, that he can tell you what link it is to go to verify it.
Can I just, do you do the work for the select boards? Do you
No.
do any work for them? That's okay.
No.
Thank you. Yes.
I'll ask the question of Julie because I've heard one of the answers and I know that she heard it not. Is there not a town clerk in the state of Vermont serving as a town clerk and a selectman?
Do what you just
Is there a
said.
town clerk?
Is there a
Yeah.
town?
Yes, there is. yeah.
Beth Grant of Winhall is actually the town clerk of Winhall. She has been for years. And last year, she just went on to the select board to serve a 2-year term. So it is not unheard of, select board can be town clerks also.
Can I ask more than one question?
Sure, yes.
Now, I know some of the board members and what they do, but I don't know what all the board members do outside of being a selectman. So could you tell me a little bit about your background, or how you make your living? Because I know it's not by selectmen.
I'll start. Mike Gardner, I run the bus company for the SVSU for DU4. I have, I think I have 46 employees. I transport approximately 1,500 to 1,800 kids every single day, every single school day. I'm the guy who, along with some other people, but snow days are, the responsibility kind of falls onto a process. We have a process, and I have 5 other dispatchers that work for my company. I'm the only one who does this system. At 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the morning, I text my road foremans in Shasberry and Pownal. Those are my 2 towns that I worry about. I don't worry about Woodford. If I can't get to Woodford, I can't get there. I feel bad. It's just I can't base a decision on just one location. My road foremans in Pownal and Shasberry will text me back, or they'll call me. They'll give me their input. At that point, around 5 a.m., I'm in contact with the superintendent. And now having a superintendent that actually lives here, can open his window, pull his curtains back, and look and see if it's snowing or what it's doing, is a huge advantage. The superintendent and I confer back and forth, and then we make what we think is an educated decision about whether or not to have school or a delay or whatever. So it's a bunch of collaborative people. I have to trust my 2 road foremans out there, which I do. wholeheartedly. One of them's a previous bus driver, so he knows what it's like to put a bus on the roads that we're going out on. And that's kind of what I do, Nelson. You know, I have to take care of field trips. It keeps me busy. I can tell you for free.
We'll just go down the line, I guess, right?
Sure. Jeannie Alexander. So my brain works like this, and I have kind of a monkey mind, I think. So I do a few different things. In my past life, I was an attorney. I was a lawyer, and I left the practice of law to pursue theology. I am a pastor, and I work here in town with an interfaith community, which is also becoming a working farm. And thank God for neighbors who have been farming for a long time, and I'm just like, what is even happening with this thing, right? And so farming, and I work with the community. Like I said, I work with the Interfaith Council in Bennington. I also work with that statewide as well. I do, additionally, because of that sort of background in law, have worked for years consulting with different policy issues, particularly if folks are trying to figure out how to get to, how do I say this the easiest way? Sort of the bottom line within different municipalities and towns, figuring out what people actually want if there is conflict in these towns, like figuring out what are the right questions, what are the right meetings to have, to sort of, if not get people on the same page, to figure out processes so people are heard and to hopefully reach a result. And sometimes that includes some mediation work as well. Might have been helpful to have me on the select board and everybody was fighting. I don't know, maybe not. So that takes up a great deal of time. And then just because I like farmers markets and I wasn't smart enough to say no, I manage the Williamstown Farmers Market, which is actually a lot of fun. So all those things.
My name's Alonzo Bizon again. I have a auto repair business down on the Mass line across from Stewart's. It's my primary thing, and then I have a bunch of rentals, mostly in town. So I invested in this town and would like to see it go forward.
Nancy Messina, I'm the Executive Director of Great Barrington Housing Authority. I've been doing housing stuff for about 30 years, and I did run Barbers Pond Mobile Home Park for many years, probably 28 to be exact, before I retired from there. And I do a lot of volunteering through the American Legion as an auxiliary member. I'm also a member of the American Legion Riders in Bennington, so we do a lot of charity work for them, and I'm a member of the VFW auxiliary as well.
Julie Weber, and I'm the town clerk.
Any third
Like I
question?
said, I knew what some of them did.
I have one more.
I'm all set.
I have one more question that's a little controversial, and I don't know if you can give me an answer, but you can give me your opinion. We have a new town office, and everybody wanted this big, beautiful town office that we could all use. But every time our candidate forum wants to use the new, beautiful town office, we're not allowed to use it. And I understand the state says you can't use it for campaigning, but we're not campaigning. And I'd like to know how you feel about us not using the new town office, and what can we do about it?
I'll go first. I don't have a problem with
Let
sorry.
let Julie start.
Okay.
We'll work down
that.
this.
Okay. Yep.
Julie Weber. And you can have a meet and greet prior to ballots being delivered to the office. Because we changed a couple of years ago when we got the office to hold our elections over there. So once ballots are received in the building, so like our ballots just came on the 10th, if you had your meet and greet prior to ballots coming, you can have a meeting there, but once the ballots have arrived, it becomes a polling place.
Nancy, anything to add? Or?
I
Well,
have
doesn't Bennington do it? Bennington has meet and greets at their town office, and they also vote there.
But they don't vote, no, Bennington votes at the firehouses, I believe.
Well, at the firehouse, yes, they do.
Yes. So that
Oh,
technically is
because
their
it's the
polling
firehouse,
place.
okay.
Their polling places are the firehouses.
Okay, thank you.
Is that the only time you've been denied access to the building is for this type of a meeting?
All I know is our committee, for the past 2 years, has been denied to use it because of, we're doing a candidate forum.
You mean like what we're doing right now?
Yeah.
And it's not because it's Sunday.
No.
We had it last year
Definitely
at the library.
Jeannie,
We didn't have the work days.
Yeah.
I'll answer that. I was the one who was approached by your committee to secure the town office for the candidate forum. And there was some, I think there was some misinformation out there, Sue, about when you can and can't use the town office, which is a polling place. And I apologize, I don't have it in front of me right now, but we researched it out. The town researched it out through VLCT and our town lawyer, to be honest. And it most certainly could have been used according to the recommendation that we got from our lawyer and VLCT, as long as it was not on voting day, as long as there was no propaganda, and please I don't remember all of the ins and outs of this. And
I read the statute, yeah.
I can come out with some of these, but I can't come out with all of them, okay? And I apologize that I can't, and I apologize I don't have it. I wish I'd known that question, because then I would have had it right in front of me. But it certainly could have been. And in my opinion, and I'm only one board member, for sure, but in my opinion, that is absolutely what it should be used for, is things along these lines. That's what you pay for that building for.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, and I knew about this after the fact.
Exactly.
I've also looked at the statute, and I think you absolutely should have been granted the ability to have it there. I think that the town hall needs to be utilized for more things. I think it belongs to the people of this town.
And as long as we're on camera, could you tell us who, if somebody else other than us wanted to use the town office, who do they go to? For permission?
Well, I think it probably, because only for accessibility, I think it should either go to the executive assistant or the administrative assistant, because they're a little more readily available than a particular board member.
Okay.
Although I do try to make myself available.
Okay.
But I think if someone were to try to use that, go to the executive or the admin assistant, and then they would bring it to the board.
And I would also say if you run into an issue with that, then approach a board member.
Yep.
I mean, I'm certainly available. If anyone is having trouble utilizing our town hall, like I've suggested to the seniors group that I've had a conversation last year that meets here on Tuesday morning, because there was some concern about being here, that maybe wanted to be somewhere else. I think that's their decision, definitely not my decision, but was willing at that point in time and absolutely willing now to try to help facilitate so they can use our town hall on Tuesday mornings. There is space there that is usable, that doesn't interfere with workspace. So you sort of touched on an area, yes.
How do your other three agree?
unless anybody wants to respond.
I don't have anything
I
to
think we've
respond.
got time for one more question from the
Can I
audience.
respond?
Oh, yeah, I said, if
Sorry.
anybody else wants to respond.
I have to take a breath for a second so my inner beauty doesn't come out. However, yes, the office is available. However, if you have been downstairs where records are stored, maps, etc., downstairs is not finished. You have, the Historic Society has one section, but if you go on this side, all of our records and permits and stuff are stored downstairs, not locked in a cage, so I believe there's not enough room downstairs to have area, but I know Ellen just raise their
There's a room
hands.
right off of the offices, though, that certainly is large enough
Yeah.
that Becca Balance spoke at.
Where we meet with our select board. I don't think anyone is proposing downstairs. I agree,
No, I'm just
downstairs is a,
saying.
yeah.
You're
But-
saying town office.
Yeah, well, I mean, the
We have
select board
upstairs
meeting.
and downstairs.
Right.
Yeah, no, I don't think people want to do that.
Last chance?
Ellen had a question.
Ellen, oh,
No, I was just gonna let Julie know, I think they were talking about upstairs.
Yes.
Pauline Gullo. I'm just wondering about our poor old church next to the town hall. What's going to happen? I mean, are we going to decide who owns it? Or what's going to happen? Or should we just fix it and all promise to go to church on Sunday? I don't know.
That's in a court's hand right now. I don't
Oh, it
think
is?
we have, yeah,
Okay.
that's in current litigation.
Yeah, it's in current litigation, Pauline, so I don't think,
Oh, good.
the only two that would be able to speak on that would be Jeannie or myself, and I don't think that's a good idea because it is in
Well,
litigation.
that's fine.
It's a great question.
Didn't know.
Yeah.
It's a great question.
I would like to know the answer to your question.
If anybody has the answer, please let Jeannie and I know after the meeting, all right? Because we'd love to have that answer.
I have one quick question, if I could, I just thought of it. So as most people know, we're going to receive a grant to build a new fire station. Is everybody happy? Thank the town and Tara on behalf of the fire department for that. But are people happy with the voting situation over there, using it for voting? Because if not, we've heard mixed feelings about how well voting actually works in that building. If not, should we be considering that when we build a new fire station, have a big enough meeting room where we could have larger town meetings and voting in a possibly a different, just something to think about.
I would like you to think about that too. I mean, I like that. I mean, I hear mixed things just like you do. I think we've all probably heard mixed things. There's doesn't seem to be one answer to that, but why not plan for it?
Jason, is this the site for it?
No, we don't know that.
I would
Possibly.
I would say, Jason, that if I were to be reelected, I'd love to have that conversation, and I'd love to have that conversation with the townspeople. I'd love to have them make the decision on whether or not they're comfortable at the town office, or whether or not they were comfortable with the old kind of style. I also think it's a conversation that should be had. Do we have a new building for that can have town meeting in it and not have to use the school? We could use one facility for town meeting and voting.
Yeah.
And these are just thoughts, right? You open the door, and I'm pretty good at coming through them usually, but.
It's been talked about.
Right, right, and I don't have an opinion one way or the other, really. I just think that's something that probably should be talked about before construction or before design.
Absolutely.
Before design.
But Mike, do you know how long it took us to build the town office? How many years?
Yeah, by the time we get that one, Sue, I'll be gone.
Yeah.
I know.
By the time we put everybody into it.
I know.
Anybody else want to respond to that question?
Now, yes, I have a comment to the Jason's. Ellen Strohmeyer, sorry. I think it's great to have the citizens' opinions on it, and I don't know how to go about that easily, but I don't want it to hold it up, and it shouldn't be a ballot decision, I don't think. I think
No, I don't either. I don't.
it's not a ballot decision, it's the fire department's land, we're just reaching out, asking what people would think, so we have to come together and figure out how to do that without causing it to be on a ballot to hold things up, because if it's voted down because 100 people don't want it, and we only end up, sorry people, but citizens are not partaking in our elections. We get 200, 300, sometimes 400. We might get some extra voters this time because there's extra people running, but on a normal basis, our citizens need to come vote if they want to have an opinion on what they're complaining about. You can't come into you and say, well, I don't like this, this, and this, and you didn't go at least try to vote yay or nay.
Sometimes, Ellen, I don't have to tell you this, but sometimes that's why the select board makes decisions that don't get put out to the town.
I do understand that.
right?
I do understand.
So sometimes it has to fall
But I'm
back.
just saying, I think Jason just needs,
Right,
I'm
no,
just
I
backing
understand.
him up.
I understand.
Great idea. I think we should ask that, but.
Nancy would like to respond to that.
I just have one question in regards to, I understand that you received the grant, but will there be matching funds that need to be put up? Do you have to put up a certain amount of funds, and where would those funds come from?
We'll have those.
So it wouldn't be something
We've been
that's,
saving, fundraising, saving, and some donations. We'll have the match.
okay. So it wouldn't be something that we would be seeking from the taxpayers again? Okay, good.
Thank you very much
Thank you,
again.
everybody.
Thank you, friends of Pownal.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.